Today we're talking bowstrings, and we're going to do a quick review and talking about the string strength, and remembering that you want the strength of your bowstring to be what the poundage of your bow was at 15 inches of draw. Okay, and then times 10. So if your bow, we did the math on that before, if your bow was 20 pounds at 15 inches, times 10 is 200-pound breaking strength. So that's how we determined how many plies you would need, or how many strands of the string you would need if you're doing either Flemish, twist, or endless loop style string. Okay, and we did a quick review that 20 grains of string mass or weight equals about 1 foot per second of bow performance. So we're just doing a quick review of that. That's how you determine how many strands or how strong you want your bowstring to be. And you have to test these fibers if you're rolling your own, like I did for the dog bane string. You have to test this by pulling it on a scale to see how much strain the individual strand can withstand. So we went over that in a different video, so go check that one out. Now, for setting up for building your bowstring, what you want to know, and a key factor here, is what style of bow that you have. Okay, so there are bows that have very pronounced handles. This is a handle bow, right? Very pronounced handle section, probably 1.25 inches thick, and then it flares out. So that's what we're going to call a handle bow. Then there is a D style bow. Okay, this bow has almost no, this is the handle section of the D style bow. So it's just a straight flat bow. This would encompass also some of your English style long bows. Here's another example of a D style bow. This is the handle section. It's the thickest part of the bow, but it's not really pronounced like this is, right? Okay, so we've determined the difference between the handle style bow and the D style bow. Why that makes a difference is because the string length, you want to determine what your string length is going to be. And how you do that is you take a tape measure and you're going to come up here to the nock of the bow, right here on your bow nock. You're going to measure, see how your string nock runs at an angle, right? This is the back of the bow, the belly of the bow, and it's running at an angle this way. You're going to measure from the back of the bow, right, on the higher side, because that's typically about 1/2 inch difference, and you want to go a little bit longer, right? So you're going to measure off the back, off the higher side. You're going to measure your bow from nock to nock. Okay, what that's going to give you is your nock to nock measurement. So you're going to write that down. Now, what we have here, don't pay attention to the bottom yet. For a D style bow, we're going to use the number 0.975. For a handle bow, we're going to use this number here, 0.55. And how we're going to determine how we want to set up our bow jig, and I'm going to show you that. I measured this D bow from nock to nock This D style bow measured 60 3/4, so 60.75. I multiplied that by this number here, 0.975. And that gave me approximately, I rounded up a little bit, that gave me 59 1/4, 59.25, so 59 1/4. So when I am setting up this easy string jig that I showed you guys how to make, it's nothing more than just a board and C-clamps. This pertains to building, I'm gonna jump back over here for a second. This pertains to building an endless loop style string. Okay, so we're not covering a Flemish twist string yet. That's an endless loop style string. So that's individual strands running, and you have 2 loops. And these loops run, you know, from point to point. So when you're setting up to build this, if I was building an endless loop string for this D bow right here, I'm gonna come here to this long board. You can just use a table if it's long enough. And I would measure from this point from the outside of this point on the jig, the C-clamp, the top of the post, and I'm gonna measure to this other post, and I would move it out. I would move this post to 59 1/4, right? That gives me my starting point. So right there, that's to the outside. So outside of this post to outside of that post, 59 1/4, okay? So then what I would do is bring my individual strands in. If I had my spool of linen or whatever other string I had twisted up, typically I'll come in, because this is gonna lay back in the string, and when I'm starting it, I'll wrap around there a couple times, and I'm ready to start laying my string. And I would just go down to the other post, wrap around that just one time, and come back around this and go back down. And I would do that for however many strands or plies that I needed in that string. Okay, so that covers us for that D bow. And there we had our equation to review that again. For that bow, the D style bow with no pronounced handle. The reason that we use 0.975, it's a little bit longer, but I'm going to explain it to you here to where it makes sense. The string on a D bow with no handle, no big pronounced handle, is going to be a little bit longer than this string, because when we string this bow, these measurements, what we're going for is the distance from the handle to where the string is, and that's called brace height. It's also called fist mail. Okay, so this may be basic review for some of you guys, but I'm explaining why I gave that measurement. I like a 59, or sorry, I like a 5.5 to a 6-inch brace height on my bows, right? So this number I'm giving you, that's what it's going to translate to, and it's going to put you a little bit on the long side, and that's okay, because you can twist your string down just a little bit, put a little bit of twist in it, and shorten it. Okay, for a handle bow, it's the exact same thing. You take the bow length, so I have that here, and I measured this handle bow, and I took the length from the back, so the top side of the nock, to the top side of the nock. Okay, and that number was 61 1/4. Right, top of the nock to the top of the nock. going to multiply it by 0.955. Because remember, that string's going to be a little bit shorter than what it would be on a D bow. So that gave me the measurement 58.5. So when I'm laying out the strands for this bow, if I'm going to make a linen bowstring, or you could do the exact same thing with Dacron. I'm going to lay these posts out at a distance and measure the exact same way from the outside of the post, and I would come down and I would move this post to 58.5, right? And you always want to round up, because you can twist this string down just a little bit to shorten it, but you can't ever make it longer. So if your brace height is a little bit low, that's okay. You're just going to twist, put a few twists in this. So that's what that's going to do, is shorten it. Now, you don't want to twist it a ton. For the endless loop string or the Flemish twist string, that's what you're going to do to bring that brace height, that string height up just a little bit. This is your brace height. I really like a 5.5 to a 6-inch brace height. It's also called fist mail sometimes, but that's the distance of your handle to your string, right? Okay. I'm gonna set this up here out of the way. You have some bows that kind of fall into the middle, right? And some of those bows are almost like a hybrid. And that's like this bow here. It's kind of in between, right? It tapers in just a little bit. So this bow is what I would call the hybrid. This is the D bow, side by side. And there's the thickness profile. So it does get a little bit thicker there in the handle than what the true D bow does. For this bow, I would go with the longer measurement, right? For your hybrid style bow, I'd probably still go for the 0.975 measurement. So a quick review for you guys to write that down. If you're making a endless loop string,